Here to talk to you about our class, Excellence in Business Communication. I hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. We're going to go over some of the assignments that are going to be coming up, as well as the extra credit assignment, give a little bit of reasoning behind that. I also want to go over the structure of the class and make sure that everyone's on the same page. Moving forward, if there are any questions that you do have, I do hope that we do keep an open line of communication. You reach out to me for any questions and concerns that you guys may have. Let's get started. So I am an adjunct professor, business professor at Bergen Community College currently. I used to be in the banking industry for about 3 years. I made the transition into education. I've always wanted to be in teaching. I ended up going in a little bit earlier than I expected, but it's good. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy sharing with the students my knowledge, but also really mentoring the future leaders and entrepreneurs of tomorrow. I have about 5 years with student leadership experience where I was mentoring different student leaders and developing their skill sets to be able to do different things like public speaking, leadership conferences, as well as panel discussions and workshops. Right now, I work with the business department to develop a scholarship for business students looking to study in the business program, also to set up an endowment that has a higher return so that way we can continue to fund some of these projects as well. Some of my hobbies also include music, entrepreneurship, and investment. Those are things that interest you guys as well. That's something you could hit me up to find out about. So at this point, you should have your syllabus reviewed. You should have gone over everything. Any questions about the assignments or what's expected of you as a student, you should feel free to contact me. The way you want to think about a syllabus is that's your contract between you, me, and the school about what we're going to be discussing in this class. Anything that you disagree with or that you find doesn't make sense, you should reach out to me because that's the contract, and anything that we decide or any grade that you get is solely based on that contract. The other thing that you should have done by now is introduce yourself on the discussion post. There's a due date on that, so you want to make sure you get the primary discussion post up by the first due date, and then you should have at least 2 responses for some of the other students as well. And there is an extra credit assignment, which I will be going over in the next slide. So the way the class is going to work is there's going to be a chapter that we're going to go through. We're not going to go through the whole book, but we're going to go through some of the most important chapters that I find. So it's going to take you about 30 minutes to go through the chapter. They're not long or dense. At that point, you're going to review the assignment and maybe go back into the chapter and pick out some important ideas, and that should take anywhere between an hour to 3 hours. And for a lot of the assignments, you're going to find that they're writing. What in my personal experience, the best way to become a great communicator is through writing, through getting your ideas out on paper and reviewing it and making sure that you take the steps to make it concise and succinct. So we're going to make sure that we do that a lot, and we're not just going to practice, we're going to do perfect practice, because through diligence and hard work, you guys are going to get the skill sets that's really going to make you top-notch, not just writers, but presenters as well. There are going to be some presentations that's going to require you to record your ideas and the message that you want to get across, and these may be reviewed by students in the class, but I'm going to also be reviewing them as well. Any questions on these assignments? I mean, they're going to be posted in advance so that way you could see them. So we will talk about them before you have to hand it in, and I'm going to be guiding you every step of the way. So that's to your benefit. The discussion board should take no more than 1 to 3 hours per week. and this is your class participation grade. So you want to make sure that your initial post is substantial, right? And then when you go into your classmates and the other students' discussion posts, you want to give a response that substantiates what they write. And what's great about this is because we don't have the classroom, unfortunately, I can't see your faces and I can't see how you guys are feeling about the material. But with the discussion board, it's almost, it replaces the classroom and gives you the ability to really say what you feel or what you think is going on with the material, how important one aspect is over the other, and what's practical about it. And that gives you a chance to really speak up about your own opinion. What I find is the more that you participate in the discussion board, the more you learn and the more you get out of the class. For students who don't participate in the discussion board, unfortunately, they find that they don't get much out of it. And that's because you only get what you put into it, you know. In a regular course, you'd spend about 2 to 3 hours in the classroom and about 4 hours studying, not including what you have to do for assignments. So if you're efficient, organized, and you take the proper amount of time to do it, what you'll find is you're spending less time on the online course than you would in a regular course. And that's the hope, really. I mean, most people do this because it's convenient, but it's also to save time as well. So now the first assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and read the scenario. You are an employee of a major car manufacturer. You work for the HR department and are currently working under a senior vice president. There have been some complaints about some informal vibes being taken too far in the office. Where in other departments, older employees voice concerns about how new management does not fit in and find that the formal communication is a bit off-putting. The senior VP of HR would like some insight on the matter and has asked you to look into the best approach. So a couple things here. They're highlighting the different scenarios that happen in the office, very common. Sometimes you have situations where you have an employee who likes to joke around in the office and says some things that some people might find offensive. The other aspect is you find that there's new people or new employees who are so professional or so clear-cut that they put people off and they don't know how to act in a way that's in accordance with everybody else. So the VP, your superiors, ask you for some insight. So based on Chapter 1, what are aspects that should be considered with respect to communication? What are the most important aspects of communication that cannot be compromised? What are some similar companies doing to improve communication in the office? So the way you want to approach this is you want to read the chapter. They have some good insight about professionalism, informal and formal communication, the differences. They also do talk about an audience-centered approach, right? So obviously the informal communication is the first aspect, because they're saying informal vibes. This could be anything like using slang in the office, like, yo, what's up, bro? Like, how you doing? Some people, depending on what office or what kind of firm you're in, that kind of language isn't appropriate. Sometimes if, let's say, for example, you go out with your coworkers to a bar after work, then you're out of the office, that's fine. But if you're speaking to a potential client and you say, yo, bro, I think you want to, invest in our company, or you want to buy these products, you know what I mean? Like that's not going to fly with them. And you have to understand the circumstances and the context you're in. Whereas the other side, some people are put off. So with my experience in the banking industry, sometimes you have to be informal when you're in the sales and you're actually positioning something so that way the person understands. There have been times when I'm explaining things like a credit card or a type of account and I would have to code switch, not necessarily speak in slang, but speak in a way that's more relatable, because when I'm trying to make the sale, I'm trying to transfer the emotion of assurance and confidence and trustworthiness to the client. So there are cases where you do have to try to fit in, but that's something that's highlighted in the book, and where that it's okay and where it's not. With respect to how you want to word your memo and how you want to phrase it, a key thing that you're going to find maybe as a challenge is not putting your slant. What I mean is, while you're doing your research, you might be leaning towards, it's better to have informal conversation because that helps to alleviate some of the stress at work, versus maybe somebody who might have a slant or might have an opinion where, at all times you must keep a formal professionalism in the office, because that is, you're representing the company, and you don't want to represent it in a way that's going to impact sales negatively or revenue negatively, right? The senior, if you notice in the question, the senior vice president is not asking for your opinion, but asking for you to give the facts, right? So what makes this assignment a little bit difficult is not putting your opinion in the memo, right? Because if she wanted your opinion, or if he wanted your opinion, they would ask for it, right? Now, why does this sometimes matter in the professional world? When it comes to the audience and who you're talking to, sometimes the title impacts someone's personality, or impacts the way they perceive what's being said to them. I've had cases, or I've seen cases where a person who is below a manager or below a vice president would say, I think what we should do is X, Y, and Z, and the manager feels like this person is telling me how to do my job, right? So that's something that in most cases you want to avoid, because you never want to be on the bad side with management, right? So if they're asking for a specific thing, you give them exactly what they want. And the other piece, and this might be a struggle for some of the high school students who are coming into college, I know I struggle with this a lot, is taking out the fluff. So when there were assignments that I had to do for English composition or research papers, and they said it had to be a certain amount of pages long, there would be points where I would personally add stuff that wasn't necessary, that just was fluff that was added to kind of create the amount of the minimum requirement I needed for a paper. With business, you don't want to do that. The reason is because the time is money, right? So when you're saying to senior vice president, you want to keep it short, concise, and efficient. So sometimes bullet points are very effective in showing the information that you're trying to get across. Now, you don't want to use incomplete sentences, because that's not proper communication. But using short, concise manner of getting the information across is much more appreciated than you just fluffing it up to meet a minimum requirement, right? And if they are asking for 3 to 5 paragraphs, or if they are asking for a certain amount, what you want to fill it up is with useful facts. So if you find that chapter 1 doesn't have enough information to give you what you need, then you do some research. I mean, how hard is it to Google things nowadays and find an article on proper communication, or even a case study about a company that is having issues with communication? So the easy part is about this assignment is that you're just really presenting the facts. So you're pulling out articles, data, information that really talks about communication in the office, and you're presenting it in an organized and concise way. So it's very straightforward. So this is due Monday the 29th. It's a substantial amount of time to get it done. If you are having issues, or you do find that you're having difficulty with it, Pages 23 and 24 of the book do give two memos, one with a slant and one without a slant, and you could go off of those two to avoid some of the traps of the assignment, you could say. And of course, you have my email and you have my number. You feel free to text me, and I will call you at my earliest convenience. So now let's talk about the extra credit assignment. Now, it's an interesting assignment. The reasoning behind why I structured it this way is I want to recreate a scenario that's similar to The Office, right? So there may be a time in your work or your career where you are going to need something, right? For some people, it's a promotion. For some people, it's a raise in their pay. For some people, it's benefits. But regardless, there will be a time where you have to ask for what you want. And in most cases, promotions, increases in pay raise, those are things that you asking for it, you could only get something from it. You can't lose anything from that conversation. But what happens when you ask for those things? Well, the first thing is the person reviews your work and what you've contributed to the company. And not only do they do this, if let's say you're asking a manager and they don't have the authority to give you that raise, they will speak about it with somebody else or other teammates to determine if that's the right approach or if it's a good idea to give you that raise or that promotion, right? So this extra credit assignment does just that, and it recreates that same experience. How does it do it? So, we asked for the proper medium of communication to be used. You guys could have texted, called, emailed, but the key is to make sure that you are doing it in a manner that is professional and shows that you have a respect and a value and confidence for yourself, right? If I was asking for a raise, I wouldn't text my manager. I'd send him a formal email stating that I would want to meet to discuss these different subjects. What time are you available? And set aside a meeting time to meet with this person. If they wanted to meet face to face, I think that's probably the best place to ask for it, because you could, at any point you can negotiate or substantiate your case and really make changes based on their reaction, right? Proper context. You want to make sure you're using formal business language when you state your case, and similar to the last case, you want it to be concise. But the other piece is, this isn't an informative piece, it would be more of a persuasive piece. So it's really on the sales side, you're trying to sell yourself in a way that will get me to agree to give you those 10 points. The other piece to it too is there's no loss in attempting it. Now, the piece where it would be reviewed by other students and I'd present it anonymously. Look, what I would do is I would take pieces of our conversation or what you say, and I would use it as an example to make a point in the class. But by no means would I make it's such a bad criticism that it would embarrass you. You say, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did this assignment, and Professor Suarez is ripping me a new one, man." No, I would never do that. This is a learning process for all of us, including myself, and I take that very seriously, and I would never put in a position where you would feel embarrassed or you would feel intimidated. Again, this is for you. This is for your benefit. And the reason that I present it to other students is so that way they could give some of their insight and also learn from the same mistakes that we all make, right? But the key is to be confident, to be diligent about what you need to do, and to make sure that we're on the same page. So I recommend that all students attempt this extra credit assignment, and it's not something that it has no due date, so you could have this conversation at any time during the semester, even the last day of the semester. I will be honest, if it's the last day of the semester and you're getting an F and you want to have this conversation, it's a difficult conversation to have. At least if you have it earlier, that's to your benefit. Um, so that's it for the slides and the things that I wanted to go over for this week. If you have any questions, again, I have an email. You could text me, and again, I will call you at my earliest convenience. Again, this is Professor Suarez signing off. Take care, guys.